Hello, and welcome to the Thursday, February 4th meeting of TV Toastmasters. I want to thank you for looking in from home, and I'd like to thank those in our studio audience for being here this evening. I'd like to welcome our guest, Vicki Hart. Thanks for coming, Vicki. We've got a great meeting in store for you today. We've got quite a full agenda, so without further ado, I'm going to pass it along to our Toastmaster, Mr. Steve Ehrenholz.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome, Toastmasters. Welcome to our guests looking in from home. As Michelle mentioned, we have a full meeting tonight, so we're going to just dive right into it. The first participant that I'm going to call up here will be our grammarian and counter for today. She's also going to be presenting our word for the day, and the objective with that is to use the word in your speaking roles today. I'll give you a clue. It's a retro term, so let me introduce our word of the day, Carol Carmeling.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guest at home, and our welcome guest here. Our word of the day is on your agenda. The meanings aren't, but we used this last night at our Talk Toastmaster meeting. We had so much fun with it. I'd like to thank Joe Foley for giving us this word of the day. It's cool. There's 5 meanings, such as the weather is cool today. Or cool is a way to say, oh, that's neat. That's a really groovy idea. Or cool, well, I'm sort of cool to that idea. Or cool, yes, could mean yes. Or when you don't know what to say, you can say, cool. And as Steve said, the challenge is to use that. I will be counting your ahs, other killer filler words, and report at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. Carol will also be identifying things that we do that we don't know that we do, and we're probably happy you're not knowing, but all of a sudden we'll be self-conscious that we do it. She didn't mention lip smacks. That's another one that she'll listen for. Our next part of the meeting that we're going to be engaging in is our impromptu speaking. This is the part of the meeting where we practice listening, thinking, and speaking with very little preparation. It's basically talking on your feet. This is probably the kind of speaking opportunities that I would say we have more often than others, because people will ask you something and you weren't even thinking about it. And then you have to give them a little report, update them, whatever. Our table topics master for this evening is our Vice President for Public Relations. Help me welcome our table topics master for tonight, Rick Barron. Rick?
Thank you, Steve. February has not started off very cool. It was quite warm, I heard, over the weekend. And when I returned on Sunday, I noticed things had grown a little bit more since I had left. I did my grocery shopping on Monday instead of Sunday, and while I was there, I decided it was time to buy the fertilizer, to throw it down to keep those nasty weeds from coming up in the springtime. So I began to wonder, I wonder what everybody else does for their first spring chore. Gwendolyn, what's your first spring chore every year?
Thank you, Rick. My first spring chore. Well, I look forward to spring. I know that. And I would have to say that once the groundhog pops up and doesn't see his shadow and tells us that spring is on the way, I start looking in the catalogs for beautiful flowers to plant. So I'm getting prepared on what I'm going to plant this year. It's really cool to think about. Petunias, they seem to do really well in my yard. I don't really like the smell of the marigolds. As pretty as they are, the smell does not do anything for me, so I usually have a lot of those to look through. And I like to look at bright colors. So I think the number one thing I do every year, getting ready for spring, is to pick out beautiful flowers that I can plant around my house and to decide which ones I'm going to choose. That's what I do to prepare for spring.
Thank you, Gwendolyn. My list for the springtime is big, but I don't think it's as big as the fall. In the fall, I don't know what it is about the fall, but it seems that stuff just piles on, just like the leaves. It seems like the leaves, the yard, the bushes, all the stuff that has to be put away so that it doesn't freeze. Just way too much. Let's fast forward to the fall. Vicki, what's your favorite fall experience?
Thank you, Rick. Well, I love the fall. The weather starts to cool off, and I like to start thinking about some football games and doing a little more, staying inside a little more, and enjoying just some different comfort foods and things like that. So I look forward to the fall, and there is a lot of yard work to get ready, do the leaves and all of that. But that's about what I do. Thanks.
Thank you, Vicki. We skipped right over my favorite season, summer. You don't have to shovel anything. You do, though, have to protect yourself from the sun. And in many cases, I find myself wearing a hat, covering myself up with sunscreen, doing all kinds, hiding from the bugs. It just seems like in summertime, we want to be outside, but we end up hiding from the things that outside brings us. Emily, what kind of things do you usually hide from?
What do I hide from in the summer? I love the summer more than I used to. I used to live in Virginia where it was really hot and humid in the summer, and I hid a lot in the house in the air conditioning because we only had a week in the spring and a week in the fall when we could even open the windows. It's just so dreadfully hot there, and I couldn't wait to move back to Ohio where I think it's pleasant. And when everybody's walking around saying, "Oh, it's so hot here," I'm happy. They've obviously never been anywhere else. I can't even imagine what it's like in New Orleans or somewhere down there. The only thing I hide from is I do burn easily. I do put a lot of that sunscreen on, but I'll do whatever I can to be outside because I love the outdoors. So that would be, I would only hide from sunburn, nothing else.
Thank you. That concludes table topics today. You can now cool off. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rick. Oh, I thought about when Emily was talking about being hot. I thought, yes, when I lived in Dallas, and it would get down to 98 at night. I thought, oh, for someone who grew up in Wisconsin, this is not the place to be. Now we're going to move on to our prepared speech portion of tonight's meeting. We have 3 speakers on our agenda, so we have quite a lineup of speakers in store for you. Our first speaker this evening is a member in our club who is going to be completing his 6th manual speech in the Competent Communications Manual. This project involves vocal variety. I'm looking forward to hearing this. The title that Richard's speech is going to be is The Eyes Have It, and I wanted to share with you a quote that was at the bottom of the email he sent to me with his speech title and what manual project he was doing. Because I thought, I don't think this is part of his response, but I thought it still was pretty cool. It goes, matter tells space how to curve. Space tells matter how to move. And we worked both out with a nervous system designed to hunt bananas. That's by Luke McKinney. Help me welcome Richard Gant. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Richard Gant.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, give me a second here. All right. So, just this afternoon, a man stabbed me in the eyeball with a stick. Absorb that for a moment. Boom, right into the eye. I was sitting there, minding my own business when it happened, too. That was the best part. And I could see the air start to ripple, it seemed like, in a big concentric circle across my field of vision. And there's this black spot in the center, and there's like, oh, that's not the air that's rippling. That's my eyeball distorting under the pressure of this impact. That's a marvelous thing to experience, don't you think? Now, I got to be a little bit honest here. I may have changed a few of the details. Specifically, it happened to both eyes. One right after the other. And it wasn't just hit and out. It was hit and push, and then move a little, and then push again on the side, and push again on the side. At this point, you're probably wondering, what on earth are you talking about, Richard? What is this, other than some horror story? Ah, stop, right now. That's my eyes. Yes, they are. This was done for my health, actually, believe it or not. I had an eye exam today. And it's the kind of thing, when you're sitting there watching your vision change because your eyeball is distorting under pressure, that makes you start wondering, what have I done wrong with my life to get myself into this position? And the truth is, the only thing I've done wrong with my life to get into that specific position was to be born with a certain set of genes. So I have a medical condition called Fuchs dystrophy. F-U-C-H-S. It's pronounced Fuchs, really. Not the other way you could pronounce that. Fuchs. And what this does is, it's not complicated precisely, but it takes a minute or two of explaining. Visualize your eye for a minute. Try to do that. You look at it every night when you're brushing your teeth, every morning when you shave if you're a guy, every morning when you're putting makeup on if you're a guy or a woman, depending on the guy or the woman. And you've got the white of the eye, and then you've got that colored bit that we all just think about and go, oh, that's the pretty part, isn't it? And then there's that black circle that we all kind of remember from high school that light goes in and does something in there to let us see. Well, covering that colored bit is a transparent dome called your cornea. And if you've thought about the cornea at all, you probably think of that as the bit that keeps dust from getting into your eyeball. Because really, who wants mud in that little sack of water that you call an eye? But it does a little bit more than just protect the eyeball from getting dust in it. It also helps regulate the pressure in your eyeball. Because your eyeball is constantly renewing the fluids in there, the aqueous humor it's called, that helps your eye focus and helps the light pass through to focus on your retina. Constantly does this. Pressure builds, pressure builds, pressure builds. Your cornea has little pumps in it that help drain that fluid back off, pump it back out into your bloodstream and get rid of it. And everybody has a finite quantity of these specialized cells that help regulate the pressure in your eyeball. And as you get older, they, like everything else in our body, like it or not, start to die off. My problem is I was born with less of these cells than anybody else. Well, anybody else who doesn't have this condition. So the way my optometrist described it to me when I was first diagnosed is, at the time I was 43, and he said, yeah, you've got the eyes of a 60 to 65-year-old man. Oh, that's great, thank you. What's that mean? Am I going blind? Well, No, no, no. Well, am I going blind? This is important to me. No, you're not going blind, but your vision is going to get worse and worse over time. And eventually, we're going to have to do a partial corneal transplant. A what now? Yikes. This is amazing. This is outpatient surgery I'm about to describe. They're going to poke a little hole in the side of my eye eventually, and they're going to scrape off the topmost 5 layers of cells in my cornea. And then they're going to replace them. And then they're going to put a patch on, and they're going to send me home. And then I get to go back a month later and have it done to the other eyeball. All because I have some genes that didn't quite work the way they're supposed to. It didn't quite grow the things I needed to grow. So, think you've got problems? The eyes have it. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Richard. We're going to take a moment now for Richard's evaluator to complete their evaluation, and we'll be back in a minute. Welcome back. Now we're going to have our second speaker for the evening. Emily Garrett is going to be giving us a speech from the Competent Communications Manual. It's speech number 3, Get to the Point. The title of her speech is The Man Behind the Mouse. Emily Garrett, The Man Behind the Mouse, The Man Behind the Mouse, Emily Garrett.
Thank you. If I say the name Walt Disney, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Take a second. When I was a kid, it was Mickey Mouse. But it was also a TV show that came on Sunday nights called Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. And they played great movies like Flubber, The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, and That Darn Cat. I loved that show. And my brother and I got to stay up late on Sunday nights, past 7:30, to watch it. We ate grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner and sat in the family room in front of the TV, which is something we never did any other time at our house. For my kids, Walt Disney to them meant movies like Mary Poppins, The Jungle Book, and Pinocchio that you could buy or rent on VHS and watch over and over until you knew all the words to all the songs. When I was a kid, I didn't realize that Walt Disney was a man's name, even though he introduced his show by saying, "Hi, I'm Walt Disney," at the beginning every Sunday night. I just didn't get that. It went right over my head. So, who was Walt Disney? He was a dreamer and a doer all in one. So many people are one or the other, but he was both. He had perseverance as he tried over and over again to be successful. He worked every single day on his dreams until he could make them work. His motto was, invent your own job and take such an interest in it, that you eat, sleep, dream, walk, talk, and do nothing else but work on your dreams until you're successful. What a motto that was. But believe it or not, there was a time when Walt was down on his luck. He was living in Kansas City in an apartment, eating dog food for dinner. He spent his last few dollars on a train ticket to California, which I find interesting because Walt was fascinated by trains, and here a train took him on his journey to success. It could take hours to summarize his career, obviously, but his first real success came with a cartoon character named Oswald the Rabbit. Universal Studios was publishing this cartoon with some success, and then they copyrighted it behind his back in their name, not his, and lured his artists away from him and cut him completely out. So what do you think he did? He started over. He created a new character named Mickey Mouse. Have you ever heard of Oswald? I hadn't. But I bet you've heard of Mickey Mouse. When Walt Disney was producing the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, he nearly went bankrupt. He ran out of money before he finished the film. So he mortgaged his own home to finish it. And it became one of the most popular movies of 1937, and in the top 10 for all time. After numerous successes with his movies and cartoons, Walt set out to create an amusement park that was clean for families. He felt like this is what the world needed. And he was obviously right, because when Disneyland first opened, it was packed with people, and it has been ever since. Disney World came later, and that's a story in itself. But Walt hadn't set out to create a second theme park. This monumental project was about Epcot, the community of tomorrow. Epcot was to be a revolution in urban planning, a prototype city where people would live and rent rather than own their homes, so that they could experience the latest and greatest in future thinking and materials, and he could keep them continually updated in modern living. When Disney died in 1966, Epcot wasn't finished yet. There was so much in getting this project started. It took a long time getting it together, and it hadn't gotten that far when he died. It's still a really cool place. But imagine what this could have been if he had lived long enough to finish it the way he had envisioned it. Now that I know what I know about him, if I hear the name Walt Disney, these two words come to mind: imagination and vision. The breadth of this man's vision is truly amazing. And there's so much to be learned from him. And there are many books and articles written about him that we can learn from. The biggest thing I've learned from him is not to let your failures keep you from trying again. And it's not important if other people understand your dreams as long as you do. Imagine what we would be missing without the things that Walt Disney has provided for us as far as entertainment, engagement, fantasy, and improvements to help the world. He set a great example for us, and there's so much we can learn, and I challenge you to learn from him and to apply it to your own life. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Emily. We'll take a minute for Emily's evaluator to complete her evaluation, and we'll be back. Welcome back. Now we're going to hear our third prepared speech for the meeting. It is going to be an icebreaker, which is usually the first speech in the basic competent communications manual. Although the individual we're going to hear from has done a number of other speeches, so this isn't the first time he's speaking in front of people. But it's going to be interesting to hear his icebreaker speech entitled, "The Area Director Job." Diego Martinez is going to give us his speech, "The Area Director Job."
Thank you so much for having me. The most important thing when you walk into an audience is welcoming the people, and I appreciate it that they are here. I'm going to talk today about my job as an area director. I'm going to divide it in 3 sets, which is basically my responsibilities. I have to travel also to different clubs, and also the result. We are in the middle of the area director, and I would like to, every club that get members over and over, we need to make sure that we get the objectives for this year. In the past, my job was calling as an area governor. This year is area director. One of the things that I have as area directors, I have 5 clubs, and sometimes the clubs are growing, other clubs are constraints, and other clubs maintain. My objective as area director is make sure that got enough support from the district, and also making sure that they understand what are the objectives they need to perform at the end of the year. We're in the middle, and we are right now in the middle to get to the area contest. It's important that every club get that participation, because it's what is Toastmaster outside, the best way to improve your communication, also your leadership, showing in a contest. So we are going to have some contests on Area 51. It's going to be on February 25th. It's going to be in Bethesda North, and everybody from different clubs will be there, and my 5 clubs will be there. So everybody's welcome. Other thing that I do is I make sure that my club also is going to be as a distinguished president, in order that they get the banners. So every person who participates in those clubs, making sure that with this objective, they're going to be either distinguished or is going to be distinguished president, and then also selected. So depending on the objective that you get, and 6 objectives, you're going to be distinguished, and then you're going to be presidential distinguished if you get 9 objectives. So it's very important for everybody just to engage. What is my role doing that one? I have to make 2 visits per club, and help me not only make sure that everybody understands the objective, but also what's going on in the club, as we have here more area directors as well. One of the things is there is so many good manuals that we have to handle, and they give us so many things about leadership. So I am able to walk into some clubs, and they need something else. So in my job, I was able to identify some need that the club needs. I have one Hispanic club, and they need something about vision. And then immediately I decide, okay, well, I will do a speech about vision. So being an area director help you not only to engage to other members, but also help how to improve the communication for others. So you become like a mentor-mentee and helping other people as well. One of the things that I like to be as an area director is because I am able to travel from one point to another club, and every club have their signature, which is very important. Everybody have not only the attention, but everybody have so many good qualities in the club. So you grab every speech from every person, and you are basically summarize and get the assortment of all the speeches, and you get a better style when you're speaking in public. So that's one of the things that when you are an area director, I encourage you to maybe run next year or maybe year after to be an area director. We have so many positions, and I think the election will be in the next TLI, will be in September, in April. So that's something that you have to think in consideration. Other things about is, besides the travel, is the result. What is important after the year that we have the commitment is we need to have more members, but also members that are going to be helping the club to grow. And that's what we are going to have also elections before you end it. So you are basically preparing the members that are going to be running the club, and then as an area director, you are also have other members that are coming in. So you have to basically looking forward. So that helped me in planning, leadership, and in communication to the club. So I have basically those 3. There's also so many things that when you are area director, you have the visibility of all the areas and also other clubs. So help you not only to be member with the district, but also helping other members. And if you see a person that is in the club that needs some help, immediately I offer as a mentor, and I've been basically right now doing like 4 mentees at the same time. So it's something that I encourage you for any members that they want to be running as an area director. It's an excellent position, and there's something that have a lot of rewards, because not only you're helping yourself, but also you are helping others in the way that the Toastmaster is helping others in order that you will be learning yourself. And the last part that I have is the objective. My club, as a talk, which is my base, they have such a good number of good people and quality. And last night I was invited just 10 people, and the 10 people show up. So it's very important that when you invited somebody and they come up to your meetings, people are recognizing and coming, and it's so much energy when you have a club that have 20 people involved. So last night I was feeling so grateful that all my guests was over there, and people are always going to be enthusiastic and learning about being a Toastmaster. So this is what I have for tonight, and I encourage you to continue working as a Toastmaster and as an area director, maybe in the future. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. We'll take another moment for Diego's evaluator to complete her evaluation of his speech, and we will be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well. There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Now we're going to get into the evaluation portion of our meeting. This is where we are going to hear about the things that the speakers this evening did well as some of the things that they might want to consider in future speaking roles that could help them enhance their communication abilities. We'll also hear from our grammarian and counter. We'll learn who used the word of the day, cool, and we'll hear our timers report. But help me welcome our general evaluator for this portion of the meeting, Michelle Lewis. Michelle?
Thank you, Steve. What cool meeting today. I had to get my word in, Carol. As a general evaluator, it's my role to lead a team to help give people feedback during their speaking portion today, and it's an opportunity to give them constructive feedback to help them think about where they want to focus on areas to improve. But it's also an opportunity to give them positive feedback about what they've done, because Toastmasters is a cool and positive environment. But I can't do this without a team. So I have a team of evaluators who have each evaluated the individual speeches. We also have a timer who is tracking the time to make sure we stay within our allotted framework. And then we also have the grammarian who is focusing on crutch words, uses of the word of the day, and also things that you do that you may not want to do, as Steve mentioned earlier. So I'd like to ask our first evaluator, Gwendolyn Neeson, to come up and give her evaluation of Emily Garrett's speech. Gwendolyn? Rich's speech. Sorry. So Gwendolyn will be giving an evaluation of Rich's speech. Thank you.
Rich, it's always a pleasure to have you to listen to your speeches. Tonight it was informative. As always, you come across as an extraordinarily intelligent man. Your intelligence is just conveyed clearly when you give a speech. The volume, the way you express yourself, your vocal variety, everything is just excellent. And the organization and giving your presentation was thoughtful and thorough. It's just I really appreciate listening to you and learning the things that you have to teach us, such as Fuchs dystrophy. I'd never heard of that before, but I was grateful to hear about it because it helped me have an appreciation for my own eyes and for you and for everybody, because it helped me really recognize we all have a battle that we're going through, and to be kind to everyone. Your word usage tonight, and as always, is phenomenal. You, let's see, I should have taken better notes as far as some of those words, but some of them, like concentric, I believe, wasn't a word that I use in my everyday language, and you just kind of, it just rolls off your tongue and you know exactly what you're talking about. If I had to make any kind of improvement, it would be, the specific thing would be to turn off your cell phone when you're giving a speech. But in all seriousness, you have a fun way of presenting, and it's almost a double-edged sword because it's like you have this British humor, and so to get to know you, to understand it, is fun and engaging. Somebody who may not know you may not understand that you're being humorous at times. That comes across in your speeches. Your voice fluctuation was nice, and your body language, fun, and your facial expressions. Like I said, you gave a great speech, and I'm looking forward to hearing your next one. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a very interesting speech, and I think you had the entire audience wondering, where the heck does he hang out? And as Emily said, where do you work? But you definitely held us in suspense for a few minutes. I'm now going to ask Steve Aaron-Holtz to come and give his evaluation for Emily Garrett's speech. Steve?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, those guests looking in from home, our guest here in the studio, and Emily. This was from the Competent Communications Manual. The title of the project was Get to the Point, and the title of the speech was The Man Behind the Mouse. The speaker was to prepare a speech that had a clear general purpose, and I thought the purpose here was to inform and educate. That's really what you were doing. I thought you did really well with that. The specific purpose was to provide a specific information about Walt Disney, and quite a lot of information about him that I wasn't aware of. Someone that for some people is well known, other people not nearly as well known. But you gave us background on him with examples from his life. The speech organization supported the speech-specific purpose. Yes, definitely. I like the examples, both of your perceptions of Disney when you were growing up and your children's. I thought that was kind of neat. One of the other things that I thought was really interesting was how Walt Disney recovered from treachery. I mean, I'd never heard of Oswald the Rabbit versus Mickey Mouse. That might have been another title, Oswald the Rabbit versus Mickey Mouse, but then you'd know it was Walt Disney. And I felt you did achieve the purpose of this speech, which was to tie everything together, your beginning, body, and conclusion, and support your overall presentation. You were confident, but I thought a few times you looked a little stiff or apprehensive. You didn't use notes much at all, which was another thing it asked me to look at. But it seemed like there were a couple little points that you kind of it was sticking. It wasn't coming quite the way you wanted it to. What could the speaker have done differently to make the speech more effective? Some other things I thought about, which might have added a little more impact. I don't know if there's ever been a picture where you could find a picture of Oswald the Rabbit, but it would be interesting to know what he looked like. I'm assuming it was a he. And a Mickey Mouse statue or something like that, or do you have a Mickey Mouse hat? Do you have anything laying around from your kids yet, or have you gotten rid of it all? I really liked how well you tied everything together in your presentation. I thought it flowed well. You provided examples that supported the strengths that Walt Disney had, and he continued to demonstrate throughout his life. I look forward to your next speech, and I'm going to turn it back to our general evaluator. So good job.
Yeah, that was a really cool speech, Emily. I really liked how you talked about Walt Disney was a dreamer and a doer and how he brought it together. I thought that was a really cool way to think about it. I'm now going to do the evaluation for Diego Martinez. Diego's speech was titled Area Director Job. This was an icebreaker speech, but as Steve prefaced earlier, it isn't the first time we've seen Diego speak. And I have to say, I was around when Diego first started Toastmasters, and you have come such a long way. I think the rest of our group can attest to you have just become such a great communicator. So we're so glad to see your growth. It's really exciting. You obviously are getting involved in many ways, so that's also something that is very exciting for us to see. How did we get to know this speaker? Well, we got a great understanding of Diego's role. He came up here and he told us the purpose of his speech, and then he told us what he does as area director. And what I really liked about it is you talked about the benefits to the club that the area director provides, but then you also talked about the benefits that you receive from being an area director. So it shows that you're getting something out of it as well as the club is. So great job on that. Did the speech reflect adequate preparation? Of course it did. Did the speaker talk clearly and audibly? Yes, you did. Did you have a definite open body and conclusion? Yes, you did. I said, please comment on the use of speaker notes. No, you did not use them, but it wasn't really your first icebreaker. What could the speaker have done differently? And the one thing I thought about was focus on your pauses. So you had clear portions of your speech or parts, but you just kept going without taking a minute to let the audience absorb what was your first part of your speech, your opening, and then your body and your conclusion. You just didn't really focus on those pauses. So that's something that I think you could definitely start to think about a little bit. And again, what I liked about the presentation is that you encouraged everyone to think about fulfilling the same role. There's probably people like me who are like, I don't have time. But you do definitely inspire me and encourage me to think about doing that in the future. So fantastic job, and I look forward to hearing you speak again soon. I am now going to ask our grammarian, Carol Cormelink, to come up and give the report on our uses of grammar and the word of the day. Carol?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. We did well tonight. I think we did. The word of the day was cool that so many people used it. I've used it 7 times already. Steve used it twice, Rick used it once, Emily used it once, and Michelle used it 3 times, and Gwendolyn used it once. I think most of us had a chance to use it. I will start. I just did the roles as they came by. Rick, you used the word of the day, as I said, and I only heard one so when you're up here for table topics. Gwendolyn, in your table topics, I didn't hear a lot throughout, but every once in a while you would have several at a time, and I only heard 1 well, 2 ums, one word of the day in your table topics, 2 so's, 1 and a double clutch and an. In your evaluation, you used a couple of good adjectives, I thought. British humor, that was a good description, and extraordinary, I thought that was another good description. You did have 8 us, 3 and-us, and 4 ums. When you're thinking, instead of thinking in silence, we fill it with non-words, us and ums. You could see the difference when you had planned something and when you were thinking about what you're saying. Vicki, for your first time, well, this was the second time I guess you were up here last time. I only heard 1 well, 3 and-ums, and things like that I heard once, so once, and of that once. That's all I heard for being up here. That was very good. Emily, in table topics, I only heard 1 double clutch. You started to say I, and then you changed it to they. 1 but, 1 so. In your speech, used the word of the day. I heard 1 like, 2 ands, 1 so, 2 double clutches. You said in them, changed it to in it. Started now that I know. 1 but, very good. Rich, where's Rich? Oh, there he is. I heard 2 so's. You did a really good pause rather than filling it with a killer filler word. You used a pause there. I heard 2 double clutches, 1 I may, did, done. You changed it, and 2 ands. That was very good. And that was a very interesting speech. I didn't know where you were going with it, somebody poking you in the eye with a stick. But it was well done. Diego, very good. Diego's evaluator when he first came to Toastmasters, and I can tell you he has not only improved his English as a second language, he has improved quite a bit of his expressions. I only heard 1 I did hear 12 so's. You still have a little problem with the subject predicate matching. You said there is, and it should have been there are so many good manuals. You said every club have, and it should be has. Sometimes you use plural when you should be using singular and vice versa. And you said guest was, and it should be guest were. But that was only 3 compared to what you did the first time. That's phenomenal. Very good. Michelle, for your general evaluator, 2 words of the day. 1 lip smack, which I almost missed. It was right in the beginning, and I almost missed it. 1 that's all you did as the general evaluator, and as an evaluator, 1 button, 2 so's. You're doing really good. That's my grammarian report for today. Keep up the good work and have a cool evening.
Carol will always catch the lip smacks, I'm telling you. Can get them by other people, but not Carol. I'm now going to ask Vicki Hart to come up and give our timers report. Vicki?
Thank you, Michelle. I hope I do this correctly. I guess I'm going to go. If I don't, please someone help me out. But Rich, his speech was 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Emily's speech was 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Diego's speech was 6 minutes and 2 seconds. For table topics, we had speaker Gwen. Her time was 1 minute and 11 seconds. Vicki, her time was 43 seconds. Emily's time was 56 seconds. For the evaluators, we had Gwendolyn. Her time was 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Steve's evaluation was 2 minutes and 39 seconds. And Michelle's evaluation was 2 minutes and 7 seconds.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you, Vicki. We really appreciate you stepping in and filling a role today. We had a great meeting. I'm going to give a few comments to how the meeting went today. I'm going to talk about punctuality, and I am the sole cause of the meeting getting started late. Well, Carol, you too. Carol and I were both not on time today, so that's part of the reason that we didn't get started right away. So I will make an effort moving forward to be here on time. That was supposed to be my New Year's resolution. It's not working out so well. The evaluations were really good today. Gwendolyn, I love how you commented about the humor style of Rich. I never thought about comparing it to the British style of humor, but that's really true, and I think that just pinpoints exactly what I was thinking, but I just couldn't articulate it. So fantastic call out. Steve, always a great evaluator, and I love the idea of the props. Mickey Mouse ears would have been great. And so, Carol, you always give great feedback. You pay such a great attention, and then Vicki, we really appreciate you stepping up here and on a roll, like the last second, without having any preparation. So thank you for doing that. Other than that, I think we had a fantastic meeting, and I'm now going to ask our Toastmaster Steve to come on up here, so that then he can turn it back to me so I can close the meeting.
Okay. Well, I think we had a really nice meeting tonight, a very nice full meeting, and we had 3 prepared speeches, we had table topics, we had a good word of the day, and Carol always demonstrates how closely she can listen to everything like Michelle says. Our next meeting is actually going to be our club spring contest. This will be the International Speech Contest and the Evaluation Contest. It will be on Saturday, February, get myself into the next month, February 20th at the Anderson branch of the Cincinnati Public Library, located on the corner of State and 5 Mile in Anderson. The library and the room open at 10. We will start our meeting contest as soon as we can after that, but we usually have to have a little time to get set up. So if you've been interested in checking us out, please consider coming. 10 o'clock, February 20th at the Anderson branch of the Cincinnati Public Library. I'm going to turn it back to our president, who was also our general evaluator and also one of the evaluators, Michelle Lewis.
Thank you, And let's give Steve a round of applause for his role as Toastmaster today. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank those of you looking in from home for joining us. And again, we hope you'll check us out. You can find out more about our club at www.tvtoastmasters.com. And this concludes our Thursday, February 4th meeting.